Thank you, Joanne. And I'm sorry that you cannot see me. I don't know why you cannot see me. I am enjoying Microsoft's new Teams, which seems to be behaving perfectly earlier today and seems to not be behaving perfectly right now. But my name is Richard McDougall. I'm a member of the DEG. I've been with the DEG for a couple of years. I work at Cleary Gottlieb as a global enterprise and cloud solutions engineer. I'm based in New York, and we have some. I'm going to just call out a few people that are in the group today. We weren't 100% certain who was coming, but very excited that Sherry Capel is here. She is an evangelist at Latera. Joanne Humber, who is a longtime member of the Document Excellence Group, on whom I rely a lot to know what I'm supposed to be doing and what's actually going on. Matt Miller, also from Latera, has joined us today. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. And if I have not called you out, it's not because I don't love you, don't respect you, or don't care about you. It's just that I'm not seeing all of the names all at once. We see this as a relatively informal discussion. We want to share with you what we're learning about moving from the desktop to the web, but mostly we want to hear what you're doing. How are you handling all of the different configurations with new Teams, new Outlook, OneDrive versus your document management system, et cetera? So I'm putting up on the screen here what I label an agenda, but it's really just a list of bullet points. These are some of the topics that have come up in my conversations throughout the industry over the past year, for those of us who are supporting Microsoft Office and trying to untangle what's happening with this move to the web. I told a story earlier before the meeting started about working with Microsoft support, and it seems that every time we introduce a new topic to them, the default platform for the conversation is that they assume we are working in Word on the web or Outlook on the web. And it takes 2 or 3 conversations before we can get everybody on board and say, well, we're still on the desktop. We're a law firm. We have a lot of add-ins. We're still working on the desktop, and we need somebody who can help us with desktop and add-ins. So that's just one little anecdote that I have to share. But other things that are concerning for people with document management systems is the move or the coexistence of OneDrive. What are your experiences with that? If you're using iManage or you're using OneDrive, SharePoint, how are you handling co-authoring? How is that going for you? In my firm, we're using iManage co-authoring. Add-ins. We all keep hearing that we're going to lose our COM add-ins and our Visto add-ins, and I think this is where Sherry and Matt have a lot of information for us, because our vendors have provided us with these add-ins for Word, and what are we going to do when we move to the web? All law firms are regularly talking about security. You know, we have to talk to InfoSec before we can do that. All of your anytime you want to make a change, make sure you bring security in on the meeting, more so than any other time in the sort of development of Microsoft Office, all of the different variations of it over the years. One of the challenges we have is Microsoft pushing advertisements to our users. Sometimes advertisements that seem as benign as, do you want to update now? There's a new version. Do you want to update? We're not particularly enamored at my place about Microsoft suggesting when our users should update. We have a lot of considerations, security not being the least of it. So we want to hear your challenges. We want to hear your successes. Let us know what's going on. Sherry, can I kick it off to you to talk a little bit about add-ins?
Certainly. Matt and I are both going to do this. So he can chime in after I sort of lay some groundwork. So um, this is going to be the world of specificity. I want you all to let that wash over you. When we say an add-in, we know what we've meant for 30 years, but the reality is that there's different add-ins now, right? There's the COM and or Visto, which stands for Visual Studio Tools for Office, that we've developed add-ins in for, again, a number of decades. And then there are the web-enabled add-ins, the ones I think, Richard, you might be talking about, as a matter of fact, when you were mentioning, we're running the desktop version of Office applications, but you're not running the web versions. Those would be web or mobile is the way I'd express it, because you have, say, Word on your iPad, you have Word on your iPhone, you have Word in the browser, and you have Word on the desktop, and they're not all the same. However, that's the promise, isn't it, of the web and or 365 enabled add-ins, is that they will run across all of those applications. That is its benefit to the whole ecosystem. But the other part that you should realize is that it also has a curative effect on the desktop. How many of you know, and or maybe in the last 24 hours, have enabled a disabled add-in, or had trouble with one crashing, today in the desktop applications as you launch the application? For example, Outlook is, I think, the most difficult add-in environment of them all. And, it's happened all along. And so this is what Microsoft is trying to avert. They're trying to avert the startup of Word and or any other Office application on the desktop, especially, trying to avert the fact that those things load and rob the application on the desktop of the memory that it has and so forth. So that's what happens when those things load, unless your add-in's been established as load on demand, which is when the user clicks it, it loads it up. So having said all of that, a 365 enabled add-in is one that doesn't do that. It runs on a web server. And this is where Matt's going to pick up, because he's been, wow, in the weeds, if you will, on all of this for a number of years. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, so I think right now the topic of Office add-ins is a big topic, especially in legal tech, because Microsoft's new Outlook has recently stopped support for Convisto applications. And they have not yet called out when Convisto support will be stopped for Microsoft Word or the other Office applications. But you could imagine a world where those applications aren't available anymore, and the technology that is installed in Outlook and Word for our users is probably predominantly built on these legacy third-party technologies that Microsoft was allowing us to leverage from an integration perspective. Now, so their big push several years ago was these O365 web apps. I think we saw kind of a spike in interest around these, and what you saw is extensions of core desktop applications as O365 web apps. So the core desktop application was still the primary application, but if you wanted to use it on an iPad or your Mac, there was a lighter weight version that did a couple basic things in an O365 web app application. Mostly what we saw back then was that those O365 apps, so to leverage the O365 app, as Sherry mentioned, this is a web services application. It needs to leverage Microsoft's new Office JavaScript models. And the reason I call that out is because Microsoft's JavaScript libraries, their APIs in that library was very limited, which is really why you just saw some of these web applications as extensions of the core desktop application leveraging the COM model and more thoroughly, fully integrated in, allowed us to do more things within Outlook and Word. Now, Microsoft has continued to improve, and we have some inside tracks with the Microsoft add-in team, and they'll tell you they kind of prioritized Excel first, then Word, then Outlook in terms of continuing to build out their API functionality for that Office JS model, which is what all the third-party applications moving to Office add-in will need to leverage. And now that, so a question to be asking as people are moving their applications over is, can I do everything that I can do on the desktop in the new Office add-in model? As we look at the drafting applications here at Latera, we've really yet to find something that would preclude us from moving to the Office add-in model. So just want to bring up that the topic of mobile or Office add-ins has been something that has been in our industry for a long time. We were largely limited by Microsoft and its API capabilities within that JavaScript library. Now they are quite robust, and more willing to talk to third-party vendors. If you do run into a roadblock, they're willing to listen to you and put that on their roadmap to be able to unlock a particular feature that you had access to in the COM model that you might not have in the JavaScript the JavaScript model. Obviously, again, I also think this is a interesting topic right now, because if you do flip that switch for new Outlook, your COM and Visto add-ins won't be enabled over there. So the Outlook applications are the ones we are piquing our interest the most right now. But we can imagine that for all the applications we have plugged into Microsoft Word, all the third-party vendors are most likely seeing what is coming on the horizon, which is Microsoft will probably at some point. They have not picked a date. I have not heard anything. I don't think Sherry's heard anything. They haven't picked a date yet, but they're definitely not making advancements to those COM or Visto models. And to future-proof these applications and to allow law firms to be ready to make the switch, they need to be looking at the Office add-in models. We all need to be looking at the Office add-in model and talking to our vendors about what are you doing to prepare these classic desktop applications for this new future that is Microsoft.
Well, you
The other
said
thing,
something interesting there, Matt, where you said, when you switch over to this new format, to this new environment, this new ecosystem, and you lose all of your COM add-ins, I'm curious if anybody in the call right now has done that. Have you switched Word and then found out that Latera Compare isn't what you expected it to be? Have you switched Outlook and then found out that one of the add-ins that you developed internally is no longer sending the email it used to send?
I guess, has anyone on the
No.
phone flipped to new Outlook?
No.
I just did recently, and new Teams and new Outlook last week.
So if you flipped to new Outlook, is it you're just a small group of folks flipping to new
it's
Outlook?
just exactly.
And then
We can't switch our lawyers yet because we're still falling into pits and stepping on landmines.
So, yeah, curious
Yeah.
to see what that looks like for the firms on the phone. Are you're got a core group looking at new Outlook to see what new bells and whistles might be here from Microsoft, and then are you in parallel having conversations with all your third-party vendors that might not have an Office add-in yet for new Outlook, and trying to better understand where on their roadmap an Office add-in will show up? Is that what folks are doing now? Kind of a discovery, more of a discovery phase for new Outlook?
I'm just seeing in the chat that Drew Baxter, hi Drew, thank you for joining early and sticking with us. Drew Baxter has said that we are unable to switch as our case management software would not support it at all. I think that's what many of us are finding, right? We've got third-party apps or practice-specific apps that require Outlook to perform certain functions, like send a tickler email or something like that, even internally developed add-ins. So I'm assuming, and I'd love to see a show of hands, how many of us are up against that? We can't change because our other, yep. 7.
It's
Oh.
growing quickly.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Matt, I think that 15. Hello, Roberta Gelb.
So for the
Thank you for joining.
And for the people who raised their hand, there is it someone called out case management? What other applications are you finding? Yeah, I guess two questions there. When you talk to your case management providers, are they giving you a time frame for when they'll move the application to Office add-in? And then two, How have conversations been going with the other third-party vendors that are still on, we'll call it classic Microsoft technology stacks?
And everyone is welcome to unmute and speak up. We're happy to hear your voice.
Stacy
Stacy?
here. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Stacy.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm
Nice
fine,
to see
everybody.
you.
How are you? Good to see you. So, I just want to say we're not even looking at New Outlook yet. Not even close to looking at it. We have looked at new teams and gone
Yeah.
back. And then there were some people got new teams who weren't supposed to get new teams, and now we're trying to get them to go back. But we're not even looking at New Outlook yet. And
Right.
I think we're still trying to get our Exchange, in the back end, getting Exchange up so that it can work with Teams in a secure manner. We don't have file sharing in Teams turned on yet. We don't even have iManage Work 10 Web up yet because our security folks are not happy.
Right.
So until they are happy, we can't move. So
Stacy brings up a good point there, and that is that some of the background work that we have to wait for is our engineering teams to move us to Exchange Online. If you're still on Exchange on-prem, a lot of this is not even a conversation for you.
Starter, yeah.
Exactly.
Hanneke, you just typed in about your case management. Why don't I just have you say it instead of reading your comment? And
Right.
hello, Hanneke, nice to see you.
Hi, good to see everyone. Yes, case management. There are some benefits to being on old systems that don't integrate with anything, because then you don't have to worry about add-ins not working. But yeah, we're just about to move our case management system to Elite 3E Matosphere, whatever you call it. And I just wanted to ask if anyone has any experience with that and how it works together, but it's a rather specific question, so might not be appropriate for answering here. But if anybody could give me some pointers on how to, what weird and wonderful things I might come across.
Well, it's interesting that two of our topics have been case management. I didn't expect that at all. I don't even know what my company's doing with case management. But it sounds like it's something that's being deeply affected by this migration of Office into this new ecosystem. We have to drag all of these legacy systems along with it.
Do
Tracy
you include
Beckett,
time management with that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Hanneke, do you include time management with your switch to Elite?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't seen it yet in any kind of detail. So,
because I know we have a little time management that goes into our finance system, and that integrates with Outlook as well. And from what I understand, and I'm not even sure which system it is at the moment, it doesn't want to move. But yeah, it doesn't want to go to the web. But that's not Elite.
Right.
I don't know. We've gone through so many.
Right. No, and that's the thing is that your timekeeper and your accounting systems can be separate and talk to each other. And I think many firms have many different configurations. Tracy Beckett, you've had your hand up. Were you wanting to interject? No. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I pressed the wrong button. Apologies.
No worries.
That's
fine. No worries.
Thanks, Stacy.
So what are people's experience in Teams? I will tell you that my experience with new Teams has not been stellar. We are in new Teams. We will survive. We will make it work. We will make everything fine. But what are people doing about file sharing in Teams?
We are still working that one out. And it's been 3 years now, and we're hopefully going to, they keep on telling me that we're going to move soon because we've tested just about everything we can test, but it hadn't happened yet. So, but that's like the next I think the next big step for us in Teams.
My big
Is-
fear about file sharing in Teams while we're still running iManage and our users are
Yep.
supposed to be using iManage, and we're actually very lucky, and in general, our users are very good about iManage. But as people start sharing files on Teams and sharing files in iManage, and then trying to do things like compare documents with Terra Compare or run Contract Companion on something, where is the version of the file that you're working with?
And
And
that's the number one. Yeah.
if I have one, and this is sort of a rhetorical question, but if I have one document on Teams and one document in iManage and I run Latera Compare, yes, Latera Compare is going to work, but what am I really comparing? And am I comparing the same two documents that everyone else thinks I'm comparing?
You would
Well,
have to have some systems in place, right? So that you check the document out of iManage and then share it in Teams. And then when you're done doing your collaboration, then you save it and check it back in. And there's going to have to be some sort of, I know that's a pain in the butt,
Yeah.
but that's the, everyone talks about collaboration and I want to say, I don't see it as often as the world said, that we were going to see it. People are not as overwhelmingly keen to work on a document with somebody else at the same time.
And I'll tell so Fiona Duncan just said, we are okay with colleagues sharing files in Teams as long as it's non-client information. And those of us in administrative roles, that's not a challenge. It's rare that I'm using client information, that I'm using documents with client information. But it's a whole other ballgame when we're talking about the attorneys doing it. Fiona, do you have anything more to say about that? Just a thumbs up. All right, and then Claire, we find that the tech is moving faster than we are able to write guidance in terms of governance. Huge, right? For example, legal work should be saved in iManage and non-client related work can be saved in OneDrive, but there need to be some specific rules to make people comfortable. And how are those rules enforceable, right?
Our
I
firm, so I guess our firm, there was a comment there that co-authoring isn't taking off as big as people had thought. Is everybody in general agreement around that? That's on the phone, and as a result, you're not necessarily looking to solve that governance problem. It's not a high priority issue necessarily because your users really don't care about co-authoring so much within Teams. Is that a fair statement for the group? I see heads nodding.
Heads are nodding, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. And I this might be taking a step back from the conversation, but I did because new teams, to me, new teams, the benefits of new teams is well, Teams is a resource hog on the machines. New Teams, the promise of it was 50% less memory, usage of 50% less memory. So I always saw the benefits of New Teams as kind of things you couldn't see. It was a more performant application. It took less memory away from the PC. When people are saying haven't had a great experience with New Teams, just curious of any specifics there. I know when it initially rolled out, it had some stability issues. It might crash a little bit. I have been on New Teams personally for probably a month now, though, and it seems to have stabilized considerably. And again, my CPU and my memory is happier as a result. I don't know if anybody else has comments here though on that.
My organization is doing co-authoring in iManage, which in some way does leverage OneDrive in the background, but it's all through the iManage interface.
And Richard, to that point, I wonder if you all had seen iManage Connect Live, I want to say kind of toward the end of last year. And then I think iManage Connect Live is coming up again here pretty soon. But what iManage announced was that they were then working with Microsoft to actually have the kinds of co-authoring, think of it as the applications they connect with or they integrate with. They're actually working to connect directly with those APIs within Microsoft's ecosystem, such that they will have an experience nearly synonymous to the native experience of co-authoring. This is going to have a lot of implications, I think, to just streamlining that process, because even though you can do that today, as Richard points out, it takes you over to OneDrive, and then you've got to invite people to meet you there, and there's a lot of steps. And so when they get this kind of streamlined, it will be really good for co-authoring, but also good for, again, the point that you all are making, and that's the whole governance of it as well. Because of where the files would be saved and the fact that iManage would, and in their iManage cloud, what are they doing there? They're working on the Microsoft platform. So this is going to be again a kind of, dare I say, slow move and maneuver, but they have been working on it very deliberately for the last year.
And I think that's why my firm's taken so much time. We are really exploring every option with security involved from the get-go to make sure that the governance is there, the rules are there, that we have everything in place before we open file sharing up to everyone. Now, does my team have file sharing? Yeah, because my team tests everything. And we share files in Teams all the time. But we've all come to realize that co-authoring, especially in Excel, it's like living in a pinball machine. Has anybody else experienced that, where you've got 5 other people in a spreadsheet with you? And it's like bam, bam, bam. Oh, how did Sam get over there all of a sudden? What's Koch? I mean, or when you both get into one cell and you're like, okay, now who's got priority? Because it looked like we both hit the cell at the same time.
Well, that's one of the things that iManage has been working diligently on, and that is locking people from editing the same paragraph at the same time. So now it used to be that you couldn't both be in the same paragraph. And if you somehow did get in, one of you would lose your changes. What they've done now is that 2 people can be in the paragraph, but only one person's keyboard will do anything.
Okay.
And everyone has a flag. Now, I don't do any co-authoring in Excel, but they're really improving the word experience. And our trainers, the trainers are key to this, of course. Our trainers are working diligently to find all of the booby traps, to find all of the pitfalls. And we've done a good job documenting stuff, but it gets better and better each time they update it. How many trainers do we have in this group? Are there trainers here? Hanukkah? Yeah.
Official trainers or people who train?
12.
The train.
Yes.
I train too, but I'm not a trainer any longer.
Because somebody's asked in the chat, who's using New Teams for training and who's using Zoom, and I think those are good differentiators. Is there anyone using Teams for training?
Not New Teams, but old Teams, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I only use Teams, and I find it so much easier now. There's I should do a post on how I make Teams interactive based on what I'm seeing in the chat, because there's actually a whole lot of ways that you can make it interactive, and so much easier than Zoom.
Great. Yes,
Sorry,
please.
what was that?
Yes, please. That would be great.
I'll go and do it. Richard follows me on LinkedIn. So
I
if you come and
do.
follow me on LinkedIn,
I'm a big fan of Hanukkah on LinkedIn. And if you're not following Hanukkah on LinkedIn, you are missing an incredible wealth, a fountain of information. So everyone should be following her.
let's be friends.
I'm seeing so much in the chat. I'm sorry I can't keep up with it, but there's conversations about iManage. Roberta, what do you want to talk a little? Roberta Gelb. Hello, Roberta Gelb. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your point there about co-authoring in iManage?
I mean, the issue, I'm sorry, I have laryngitis, so I'm not sure how well I'm going to come across, but it's when you're working on a document, the last time we did co-authoring, you were actually editing the document in live, real time. And at the time, there was no way to save it back as a new version. And I don't know if that has changed.
We do not have that problem. So it is live, but the owner of the session can make decisions at any time about how to save. And of course, autosave is on, so it's constantly saving the changes, which I initially thought was very bad, but then I realized, oh, no, that's very good. If you've got 6 people making changes, better to have all their changes saved than have to manually save them. And one of the questions came up, what if somebody doesn't save their changes and it's in that interim period? And what the conclusion we came to is that people who are good about saving their work won't have a problem. People who are bad about saving their work are always going to have the problems related to failing to save your work, whether you're in co-authoring or regular authoring. Does that make sense? Did I just?
Yeah, but if if it's saved automatically and you decide to go back, I mean, in iManage, it's not such a problem because you have the timeline and you can go back. But I would like to see them force it as a new version before you go to co-authoring. So you're co-authoring a new version.
Yeah, and that is our recommendation as we train. Our recommendation is before you start a new co-authoring session, be certain you're doing it with a new version of the document.
See, I think
but
the technology
I hear what you're saying, Roberta.
The technology should take care of it. Once you click on co-authoring, it should force you into a new version.
Yeah,
because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Some attorneys don't want a client to see that it's version 32. They want them to think it's version 2. You know, that's it's a cultural problem as much as it is a technological problem. And if the technology forces the culture to be a certain way, you're going to get resistance, I think.
Yeah, but whether it's version 2 or version 22, everybody should have some software that allows them to have the versions or not have the versions in the Doc ID.
Oh yes, that's another point. Exactly. So I'm seeing a ton of comments, and I'm sorry I'm not keeping up with them. A lot of people saying they're using new teams, and a lot of talk about training, which is excellent. Is there anybody who wants to talk about the point they're making here in the chat? I'm seeing some talk about the ILTA series on new teams. I've not attended. Who has attended the ILTA series on new teams?
I think it's a 3-part series. I believe they just delivered part 2. And I was just making a kind of tongue-in-cheek comment that it was delivered on Zoom about new teams. Anyway.
There is an irony there, isn't there?
There is an irony there. And I think that actually the irony really is one that hits home to all of us, is that there are so many systems that organizations have hooked up to Zoom, or hooked up to WebEx or hooked up to, again, other platform, pick one. And that, you really have to run it that way because that's how your registration goes. And that's how your, all of your data that you save, that's how it goes. So, yeah, but they delivered it via Zoom. And Jay Parekh from Netrix was one of the presenters. They did talk a lot about, you should be able, if you're an ILTA member, you should be able to access those recordings. So go look for those as, I think, under resources. 1 and 2 just happened. And then I think the third one is coming up. I don't know the date though. I can find out.
Excellent. So I'm seeing a lot of chat about training, and I just want to let these attendees know, let you all know that DEG is looking at doing a joint session with the New York Professional Legal Trainers Group, PLTG. I don't know how many of you are sitting in New York or how many of you know that, but we're just getting that sorted out, and it may be open to DEG members. We don't know yet. We're getting that sorted. But we are starting to find a lot of crossover between the topics that we're delivering as the Document Excellence Group and what training groups around the world, or well, in Europe and in the United States, are discussing. The topics are really more than ever coming together. Another topic that's coming up for us is expanding our work with our styles, the DEG styles. Our DEG styles are currently London-based. They're very Eurocentric, so I know many American firms have not found them as valuable as they might. I want you to know that we are taking another approach to that and talking about involving New York firms, United States firms, and development of styles, and also reaching out to some of the vendors that we do business with, or we don't do business with them. I'm sorry, that was the wrong way to say that. Vendors who participate in our events to see how the Document Excellence Group's styles can be leveraged by our members and also by the vendors who are delivering products to our members. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because I think both of those things are going to be a bigger and bigger topic as time goes on. Both our work as document professionals in conjunction with trainers, and how our document styles can work across more than just one specific market. What's next? I could keep talking about the things I'm interested in. One of the things that's under my skin is Microsoft advertising, but I would like you all to share anecdotes. I could sit here and talk all day, but that's not why we're here. My
Yeah, we
firm's
had a question, didn't we, about the fact that Microsoft do appear to be able to advertise to users within a law firm. And of course, you need to control that somehow, but is there any way of controlling it, and do we need to control it? Anyone got any thoughts on that? Is that happening?
Can't you do that
Give
in
me an
policy file?
example. Sorry, give me an example, because we don't get that come up at our law firm.
the yellow banner at the top of Word or Excel or Outlook that says there's a new version. Do you want to update now?
We don't allow that to appear. It's a group policy.
Okay.
No, we don't.
I don't know which group policy. I apologize for that,
No, it's
but
okay.
we are doing quite a few updates. We're always at least a month behind.
Right.
That gives my team basically guinea pig zone time to test out, and then we push out updates through the tiers. But we have suppressed any Microsoft alerts that say there's a new version, and we do that using group policy.
And Richard, that's clearly not the case for you. Is anybody, is there anyone on the call that has seen that and is having that as an issue in their firm? Let's have a look. Any hands up?
I see a hand up for Marie Coleman, but Marie, I'm not sure if that's related to this topic or if you raised your hand earlier. Earlier, not this topic. Okay, thank you, Maria. So as I talk about it, it could be that we are only letting IT see that, and that our users at their desks are not seeing that yellow banner. And the more I hearing Sandy talk about it, that's probably exactly what's going on, is that I'm seeing it, my colleagues are seeing it, but our users aren't seeing it. Now I'm going to have to go back to work after this and find out the answer to that.
Richard, I don't know, this is just kind of random to the agenda perhaps, but I also wanted to make sure we share a few things that will form a bit of either confusion or bumps in the road, so to speak. So we talked earlier about Outlook and how new Outlook no longer permits COM add-ins to run there. And, yes, fundamentally, technically, stability-wise, this is a great thing. But right now, so you all know, if what you have is a M365 add-in, the kind that runs there, the kind that works through Outlook no matter where you are, mobile or whatever, you cannot load an add-in there globally. Does everyone know what I mean by that? It means that when you run Outlook, you launch Outlook, it's not going to immediately, your add-in is not going to immediately appear there. You might see that button on the home tab of New Outlook, and what it says is Office add-ins, and you have to click it and load something. Just know that right now, technically, Microsoft offers the third-party developers, even its own add-ins, frankly, no way to load them upon startup. So these will be the kinds of, tiny things that we're all gonna at some point face and or raise an uproar with Microsoft. Hey, we need help. We need you to have this there. I think about the document management system, like how will that even happen, right? In New Outlook. So again, I just wanted to make sure you all knew.
Sherry,
Drew?
I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's entirely correct. You can deploy a web add-in to every user in your
Yes, you can.
Microsoft tenant. It doesn't load when the applications loads. What happens when you select an add-in from a ribbon? It loads a web. The web app then is effectively loaded on demand. Is that what you mean?
It's not sticky. That's Tim. What I think that's Tim that's talking.
No, Drew. Oh, it's Tim.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, it's not sticky. So like it will remember that you loaded it at some point, but it won't.
Yeah.
As you launch, it won't immediately appear there. Like for instance, our third-party add-ins in startup of Word do today.
Yes.
Right.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So it's these are some of the developer hooks that we don't yet have.
Yeah. You can pin an add-in so that it stays open, but you have to open it initially.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There are some in Outlook. There are some APIs that will automatically open the add-in, like on Ascend, for instance. That's a new API that they've released that allows you to interact with an email message when you're sending an email, for instance.
Correct.
So the kind of thing iManage will find useful when they're developing their web add-in, so that you can be offered the option of filing an email as you're sending it.
And it is because every call it action in Outlook has to have possibly a different kind of add-in or
Yeah.
a different task that it's performing.
Yes, and
So anyway,
Microsoft are asking vendors to tell them what's missing as part of their
Yes.
rolling out of the new Outlook, because they want us all to move on to it. And I
Yep.
think law firms are going to take quite a long time to do that with all the different applications they have.
Oh yeah.
So we
'Cause I
have
can't-
two. Yeah, go ahead, Stacy.
Oh no, I
sorry.
was just gonna say I can't imagine opening Word without my numbering.
Right.
I know, I know.
So we have
And
two.
the rest of your
Yeah, go ahead, Stacy. I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
no. You go right ahead. I'm
Oh,
just talking.
I was going to say that we have two Drew and Roberta in the chat. Drew saying something similar, I think, to what Tim was saying, and did we address your concern there, Drew? You said that you did not think that this was correct, that you have items that are running at startup.
Users run. Lotus as well. Well, again, it's
Yeah. And Roberta wants some clarification. She's saying that when a user launches current Outlook, the integration with the iManager and NetDocs is loaded as well, and more clarification on what happens with new Outlook.
right. With new Outlook is where I was speaking. So yeah. And again, it's just, it takes time. Obviously, it takes time. So there will be a lot of gaps to mind for a little bit.
So when I launch new Outlook and I'm used to iManage having already been loaded, what steps do I have to take? There's a button?
It's a button.
Matt?
Yeah, it would be a
looks like
button.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a button right now. You'd have to engage on the ribbon.
And that loads iManage for the entire session.
Correct. I mean, we're looking at for Metadac for us, our metadata cleaner right now. Obviously, it loads when Outlook comes up, and as we look to what's possible in the Office add-in model right now, as we're kind of proof of concepting it out, you do have to click a button that opens a task pane, and then users have to click actions from there to choose to essentially clean and send. So it's changing the workflow of how like a Metadac server works today, where you can just send it, and the app essentially is engaging and cleaning on that send event. Users right now have to click a button to clean and send, in which case it would then clean it on click of a button. So we're looking, this is conversations that we're having with Microsoft that we want to improve that workflow. And as Tim mentioned, Microsoft seems to be more open to feedback than ever before, as they are quite bullish on their third-party vendors moving over to these models.
And you bring up something that's really important in my group, and that is, as we move, what does happen with Clean and Compare? Are we going to be moving to Metadac Server and Compare Server in order to complete these tasks now that the add-ins become more of a challenge, or are both still going to be available?
I think for Litera, I don't see us stopping support for the classic desktop applications. We have too big of a footprint. The bulk of our customer base is all on some form of the desktop predominantly right now, or a locally installed server. I think for the future for drafting, you will see us moving to multi-tenanted hosted SaaS-based versions of the applications when those come out. Wouldn't stop support for any of the desktop applications anytime soon. I mean, you could see what iManage did. They gave a very, very long runway from desktop to cloud. I assume Litera would do something similar, but these things do need to be addressed. To kind of future-proof the third-party technology companies, to future-proof themselves, will need to adopt these Office add-in models, will need to probably become more SaaS-based type solutions.
Yeah, it makes sense. And iManage has fortunately given us a very long runway. It's been a very slow process with them, which is good for us. So what's next on the list? Who is not using a document management system? Is there anybody here who's Hanukkah? Your firm does not use a document management system.
Oh, we use our client and matter documents go into a case management system, and then for team related stuff and personal stuff, you either save it onto a network drive, but we're moving towards SharePoint for those. So it's kind of made it easy because it's very clear. You put your client matter documents in the case management system, everything else, find a place for it in Teams where possible. So the big problem that we're having is people not realizing the difference between OneDrive and the larger SharePoint that documents get put on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of problems with people sharing documents from their OneDrive, leaving the firm, and then finding that nobody has access to the rights management on that. That's our problem.
And that has always been one of the big challenges with firms saying things like, oh, it would be great to go to an exclusive Microsoft environment. And then you look at SharePoint and now OneDrive, and you see what your security options are, and it makes things like ethical walls a lot more challenging than iManage, which does it very elegantly and very simply. So I think that even as Microsoft improves the experience around SharePoint and OneDrive, that I think large law is always going to have a need for something more robust like iManage or NetDocuments. And Fiona is saying, same Ray, OneDrive. Does anyone know of any good documentation for SharePoint OneDrive for beginners? Good luck finding it at the Microsoft site.
Yeah, good luck with that. Linda had some stuff a while back. Is that now LinkedIn Learning? Did Linda become LinkedIn Learning?
Yeah,
Yes.
Linda became LinkedIn.
Try LinkedIn Learning. The other thing is, I really love the step-by-step books. I don't know if you guys have used them, and I've been in stuff for a while, and I still love the step-by-step books. They're great for when you're making a new image or testing new stuff out, even the beginner stuff about, how to bold. There's always great tips in them. And I know I looked at one for SharePoint, and I was looking on my shelf here and I don't see it. But you might search Amazon or somewhere. They're from Microsoft. They're step-by-step. I like them for all the Office stuff. And I know I did see one for SharePoint that I enjoyed. So just a personal reference there. It would be for beginner. It would be launching point, definitely. But I did like the course. It was Linda back then, but LinkedIn Learning. Take a look.
Excellent. Excellent. Tracy, are you talking to us or are you on a different call? I saw your mouth moving, but I wasn't sure.
I'm talking to myself. Sorry, you have to excuse me. I'm talking to myself as I'm thinking about something else. So sorry. I could try and talk. Do two things at once. Yeah, sorry.
So
Sorry
Richard,
about that.
You had co-authoring on the list. Did you also have Copilot on the list?
I did not put Copilot on the list. Copilot was not on the list. So we have just turned on Copilot for a very small number of users, and I have not dived in deep enough to be able to share my experience. Who's got Copilot running?
I think we had it on for 3 days and then we turned it off.
I think law firms are going to have a bigger challenge than software vendors in the Copilot arena.
So,
Bitsy, can I ask why you turned it off after 3 days? What were you running into issue-wise?
We saw a lot of slowness, resource hogging, and there were some security concerns. They don't share with me, unfortunately. They just tell me when they're concerned. And they're like, okay, we're turning it off. So what I saw in the, I don't know, 4 hours that I actually got to look at it, it was just a resource hog for me. But like I said, we don't have a lot of the back end built out yet. We're moving the speed of molasses in getting out on the web. We're taking our time. So we tend to turn things on for just a little bit of time, take a quick peek and go, oh no, we're not there yet. And then we turn it off. So
just for everyone's prior notice, that we are intending to do a Document Excellence Group meeting, probably June. We've got someone from Clifford Chance talking about their experience of using Copilot.
Yeah.
They've been spending a lot of time getting that in place.
Yep.
And the person who's been very much involved in that project is going to talk to us. And before that, we have a joint meeting on the 9th of May with the LTC4 Global Digital Learning Network. So anyone involved in delivering training, the Document Excellence Group, and the ILTA Europe Special Interest Group that covers education. And we're going to be talking about time recording, time capture in particular, because that seems to be, I've just worked out that I was training time capture in 2014. Nobody liked it. I think they're happier about it now. Anyway, and we're going to talk about time capture. We're going to talk about voice recognition. And I've controversially put the heading, is it the end of typing? To see what people think about how much it's being used. And so that's a sort of a joint meeting. We're going to be talking primarily to training people, but obviously anyone's very welcome to attend. So whether you're in the Document Excellence Group, whether you're an LTC4 licensee, whether you're a GDLN person, or you're an ILTA Europe member of that group, you're very welcome to attend. That's the 9th of May. And it's at lunchtime UK, so early morning for the Eastern time. But obviously we'll promote that to you.
Do we know who from Clifford Chance will be joining us?
I'm hoping it will Darshna, who talked to us at the Document Excellence Day a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Darshna Day.
She's been very actively involved. I've asked her if she will talk, and she's, you know, in theory, that's the plan, that she will do so. So that will be in June. So what we're trying to do is every month do something, tell you something about what's happening out there, have an opportunity to discuss it. The only other thing that I want you to put in your diary, which is very important, is the 10th of October, which is the 20th anniversary of the Document Excellence Group, which started in 2004. So we're going to have a day, and the day will be in London, and also that will also be organised locally by Richard to have something in the US as well. So that's quite an exciting time for us. 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? I was just a child at the time.
Yeah, as I remember, we were both in secondary school.
Yeah,
when
that's
happened.
right.
Yeah,
Sherry, are we really that old?
No.
I don't think so.
I
So
am. I joined in 99. Oh my God.
Yes, long
I
time.
trained the first lawyer in 1995, and he wanted to know why nothing happened when he waved the mouse around. Nothing seems to be happening on my screen. I think we've moved on a little since then.
I was a trainer back then. Yep, and people did the same thing to me.
Yeah, great. Wasn't it great? It was fun.
Is
One
there a
really-
picture of the founders of the first DEG group? Someone
Oh, no,
asked.
that would be very unkind. I wasn't involved. I hasten to add.
So Richard, if I may, I wanted to circle back to a comment that we made at the very beginning about specificity, right? That this moment is all about, you know, when we're talking about this, reporting things, you know, sharing things, that specificity is really important. And the reason I asked about Copilot is, you all, it too is an add-in environment. And those are additional add-ins that are not the other add-ins nor the former add-ins. And I just wanted to make sure that we all recognize that this is quite the cookery.
Yeah.
For all in the future.
Well, that's a good way to end. Circling back to add-ins, I want to thank everybody for participating, and I'm sorry for the confusion about the timing of the invitation, but we seem to have gotten a good group. Thanks to Sherry and Matt from Latera for sharing with us, and thank you, Joanne, for being on board from the Document Excellence Group, and Hanukkah and Stacy and everybody who participated. Your participation means the world. It really is what makes these sessions worthwhile. So please look forward to a follow-up email from us, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next DEG event.
Good to see all your faces.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you all again.
Definitely.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.